This is Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com. A few days ago, the vacant seat of Senator Ted Kennedy in Massachusetts was snatched away from the Democrats by a very attractive Republican, Scott Brown. And now everyone is in shock, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments about that. Scott Brown was an incredible candidate. He is very good looking. He has had his pictures in Cosmo magazine with very few clothes on. He has two attractive and charismatic daughters and an interesting wife. And he knew how to communicate with the middle class, the working class, and independent voters in the state of Massachusetts in a way that was very, very compelling. Um, Martha Coakley, his opponent, who is this very smart woman and attractive herself, ran a lackadaisical campaign, a poor campaign. Democrats in the state of Massachusetts think that God has given the state to the Democratic Party and the Democratic machine, and that they, more or less, once they get nominated, can just simply ride into a victory. And I think this election frightened the Democrats a lot in Massachusetts because that doesn't seem to be the case, at least right now. Of course, independents or no party voters are the largest group in the state anyway. The Democrats are second and the Republicans are a tiny third. Um, Republicans need to remember that this was not a Republican victory. It was a victory handed to them by independents who do not have a lot of confidence in the Republican Party. That's why they're not members of it. Um, it was also a victory in a time when people are really annoyed, frightened, angry, and many of them don't see the politicians in Washington, D.C., nor the traditional parties providing much leadership. Instead, what you have is a war to the death between Democrats and Republicans, and a civil war inside the Democratic Party, so that even though the Democrats technically have a majority, and I keep telling some of my good friends who are political analysts that the Democrats have a majority on paper, but they don't have a majority on policy, because on any given issue, and this is true of healthcare reform, which was probably the issue that scared people into voting for Scott Brown in the first place, the Democrats in the Senate had a mighty, mighty, mighty difficult struggle to get 60 votes to pass a healthcare reform bill, giving away all kinds of things to people. And in the House Democrats don't agree with the Senate Democrats on the bill. They want many more things in it, and they're much more liberal. And so to say that the Democrats have a majority is only theoretically true. The Democrats can rarely get all of those people who have a D in front of their name to actually vote together and coherently. There are many conservative Democrats who rarely agree. In the Senate, there's an independent and a socialist who vote with the Democrats, but one of them is very conservative, and that's Senator Lieberman. The other one is very liberal, and that's the senator from Vermont. And if you can imagine passing a piece of legislation that both Senator Lieberman on the right and the senator from Vermont on the other side could be happy with, then you're imagining a very strange piece of legislation. So what we saw in Massachusetts was essentially a very much of a protest vote, and I think the Republicans are benefiting from those protest votes. President Obama has not offered very clear leadership. But I'm not sure what's going to happen in November of 2010 with races for the Senate and races for the House all over the country. I still think that many of those races will be won state by state and district by district. And Bernie Sanders, who is a socialist in Vermont and votes with the Democrats, will still be a very, very, very liberal senator, and Senator Lieberman, who is nominally a Democrat, but is one of the most conservative Democrats, I think, in the Senate, will be very conservative, and those two won't see eye to eye on many things. And so after this is all over, even if the Republicans gain seats and maybe get a majority, it's not at all clear to me that the Republicans will have a veto-proof majority in the Senate. I mean, are the Republicans really going to end up with 60 Senate seats? No, they're not. And if the Republicans retake the Senate, the Democrats are going to basically do what the Republicans have done, which is to paralyze the Senate, to threaten a filibuster on anything that the Republicans want to pass. And the Republicans, even if they are the majority, will be basically paralyzed. I'm not very happy with all this, by the way. But that is the agenda as it looks now. I don't see anything much exciting and interesting or very useful happening, even if the Republicans win a huge number of seats and have a majority in the Senate and perhaps even in the House, unless they have a majority so overwhelmingly large that they can override the Obama administration's vetoes and fend off paralysis in both of those bodies through the rules, which can be very, very paralytic. So my takeaway message is Americans are mad, angry, upset. They are voting on protest votes, and they're voting for, in some cases, very attractive candidates that they think can carry their message to Washington, D.C. See you in InsiderIowa.com. Iowa's only an exciting internet magazine. Thanks.